Hi, I'm Cindy Morgan. Phil, would you like me to introduce myself from where I am and how you know me? Cindy Morgan from TRON, I'm guessing. Yori and TRON, and Lacey Underall from Caddyshack. I'm guessing TRON is more this market. What would you say? Yeah, the camera guys are going, yeah. Are Lora and Yori going to appear in the next TRON movie? Ooh, that's a very good question. And I have good stories from Caddyshack. Which would you like me to answer, Phil? Pick a choice. Do you have any good stories from when we filmed Caddyshack? Yes. Caddyshack was shot, it was Animal House on a golf course, and I'm trying to think of stories I can tell you on camera that won't get us into trouble. They had four of the funniest men on the planet, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Ted Knight, Rodney Dangerfield, and they locked us all up on a golf course for 6 weeks. So you can imagine. We had the best time possible. And as far as Lora and Yori showing up in the next Tron, that's up to you guys because blog away, people are listening. I've got high hopes. I'm cautiously optimistic. At what point did I get into acting? That's a good question. I was in radio in Chicago doing morning drive and making $135 a week pulling good numbers. I was working for the, if you've seen Cadillac Records, that was the company I was working for. So I wanted to do commercials, and nobody let me get on camera. So I said, the heck with you guys, I'm going to LA. They said, you'll never get a job. And I said, I'll have a billboard on Sunset in a year. And I had one in 8 months. That was Caddyshack. I got lucky. They asked me if I had any acting training, and I said I studied at the Goodman in Chicago. I'm not really sure where the Goodman is. I think it's by the Art Institute, but once I got there, I started training. Do I love going to Comic-Con, or is it too crazy? How do I politically answer that question? I love going to Comic-Con. Actually, it's like Old Home Week. It's a chance to say thank you and hello to a lot of people who've been emailing for years, being good supporters. That part's wonderful, and it is crazy. It's like a rock concert 24/7, but it's a lot of fun. How did I like doing the voice of the Tron video game? Good question, and a very tough job. It was wonderful because there was such great support from people when they saw there wasn't a character for me in the Tron video game. So they wrote Matsuria for me. And it was a tough job because I was living in New York at the time. I was sent 3 pages of blind copy from the director in LA. I had them on headphones, and when I got to the studio, New York had one of its rare snowstorms that shut down the subway system. So I had to get a pirate gypsy cab into New York City, got myself in there into the studio, and it's in the game, so it worked. Why did I use the name Cindy? Again, these are great questions, Phil. The reason I use the name Cindy Morgan instead of my real name is when I was in college, I worked at the college radio station. I had a broadcasting degree, a communications degree, but I was doing broadcasting. And I was on the air as Cindy Sikorsky, which is my real name. And I got an offer from the commercial station in town. Said, you can be on the air tonight, but you got to have another name. Like, that would fool everybody. So I'd read a story about when I was a kid about Morgan Le Fay. I said, Morgan, Cindy Morgan. I had 2 jobs at the same time while I was in college. When I graduated, I sent out resumes from Cindy Sikorsky. She didn't get a job. Cindy Morgan did. And that's how I chose the name. Good questions. If I had a superpower, what would it be? Oh, so many things go through my mind, but time travel. Oh, gosh, yeah. Go back and tell myself, don't do that, and yes, do that. That would be great. Who are these people? These are great questions, Phil. Do I love rewatching my movies? It doesn't get tiresome. In truth, at first it was very difficult for me to watch the movies because you can imagine when you see a picture of yourself, it's like, oh, gosh, what am I? And then when it's that big and it's on the screen, you can see your mistakes sky high. So at first it was pretty tough. I had to be properly sedated to watch my movies. And now it's kind of fun. Now it's like, not so bad. The best costumes I've seen, I were at some of the parties I went to. There are amazing costumes here. Today, right in front of my booth, I saw a guy who, in a steampunk costume, he was a man riding a horse, and he had a mechanical contraption behind him that actually looked pretty darn real until he stepped at the trash can and ate his lunch. But until then, he was pulling it off really well. Yes, I am writing a book. It's called From Catholic School to Caddyshack. The first and second, I've got behind the scenes, if you're a Caddyshack fan, and it's a different market, TRON is over here, Caddyshack is over here. Behind the scenes was very interesting. I've got 1,700 behind the scenes images I'm putting together in a coffee table book and giving a first-hand account, so I can tell you those stories that I'm a little guarded about. I've got a picture of, if you've seen Caddyshack, the golf course was blown up. They mined it with gasoline. I've got a picture of the 3-story fireball and all the actors running toward camera, except for one who's standing there going, what? And that was me going, these guys are nuts. The next day, they painted it green and blew it up again. Stories like that. That's what the book's about. And that's the new project I'm working on, is that book. When I'm not at Comic-Con, I run home. It's 9/10 finished, and I'm pretty happy with it. I want to go over it one more time, make sure I didn't leave anything out. And how do I think the new TRON compares to the version I was in? I think they're kind of different movies in a lot of ways. The new TRON was wonderful because you got to know we did this fairly analog. It was shot in black and white, and it was the first time CGI had been used. The entire set was black. It wasn't green screen or blue screen, and we really had very little idea of what we were doing. It was more or less, Jeff Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, and I would show up on the set and just run over here and say this and run over there and say that. Luckily, I was working with phenomenal actors, and we found the reality in the other actors' eyes. It was pretty tough, but it had a lot of heart to it. The new TRON has amazing special effects, and I'm very much looking forward to see where the story goes. Let's see. Did I keep anything from the TRON set, like an identity disc? This is Disney. You don't walk out of there with anything. They keep an eye on it. Actually, my costume showed up at Comic-Con, which I'd love to know how somebody got. But the Yori's costume from Comic-Con is floating around. It's a little unnerving, but it's out there. And what Comic-Con is like for me, all the things that home people will never know, well, I can tell you this. It's pretty darn cool. Because people come up to you, if you're on my side of the desk, people come up and say what TRON meant to them. That they were little kids growing up and they saw this movie and it was awesome and they got into computer science because of it. And Caddyshack, I get a lot of people coming up telling me that at some of the toughest times of their life, a lot of folks from the military come up and they tell me they run Caddyshack. It's an icebreaker, it's a stress reliever, and it's pretty humbling because I just want to say thank you, because no matter what, agents and managers don't give you a lot of this, but coming from you guys, that means everything. So thank you. Yes, just so you know, keep an eye on CindyMorganInfo.com. That's my name, CindyMorganInfo.com, and we keep everything pretty well up there. We've got Facebook and MySpace and Twitter off of that, but keep an eye on it, and you'll know when the book's coming out, and all those questions you've been asking, I'll have answers. Thanks a lot. Are you sure you want to